Hello and welcome to recipes using Colliers Powerful Welsh Cheddar. Today we're going to be doing a red onion and Colliers cheddar cheese tart, which is very straightforward and great for sort of any time of the day. It's a perfect evening or dinner party starter. It can be done all ahead of time and served room temperature. So for this, we've got some red onions, some rosemary, we've obviously got some eggs and some butter, some garlic, which we're going to blanch down to soften, and obviously the lovely Colliers cheddar cheese. So first things first, let's make a bit of space on the board. I've got some short crust pastry here. You could use a puff pastry, which is kind of it's quick, gives you a much lighter result. The short crust works just as well, much sort of richer in its texture, I think. Bit of flour. Okay, so when you're flouring your pastry, whether it's puff, whether it's short crust or something like that, just make sure you don't over flour it because you're going to toughen the pastry the more you use. Okay, so just simply roll it out to pretty much the depth of a 50p piece. A little bit more flour to make sure it doesn't stick. Nice even strokes. It's good to watch that. And just roll it just to the size of whatever tin you're using. Okay, and then pick it up using the rolling pin and just lay it gently over the top of the tart shell. Okay, so make sure it goes round nice and neatly all around the edges, but leave all that trim over the side here because the pastry is going to shrink. So if you start cutting away now, it's going to shrink right down into the pan. So we don't want that. So leave it like so. Now this needs to get chilled. So we need to blind bake this now. So I'm using just a bit of baking paper, or you could use cling film because the cling film shrinks, it doesn't affect the tart in any way. It's nothing to be scared of. So paper in, some baking beans, like so, just along the bottom. So the baking beans are just going to stop the base from rising up and just messing up the bottom of the tart really. This now goes in the fridge for about sort of 20 minutes just to chill down. As I said, just to stop that the pastry from shrinking so dramatically. So put it in there, and then we'll bake it at about sort of 200 for about 20 minutes or so. Right, so in the meantime, we're going to cook the onions. So for the next stage of the recipe, I've got some red onions here. I'm going to sweat these down with a bit of rosemary. So in a hot pan, a little bit of olive oil. You don't want to be using butter at this stage because they long, slow sweating process. It takes about sort of 20 minutes and you don't want any colour going on these onions. So to help that, to stop them getting so much colour, just put a little bit of salt on at this stage, right in the early stages. That's going to help draw out any moisture from those onions and prevent them from sticking. Into there, I've got some chopped rosemary. Don't go mad on the rosemary. You don't want it to, it's quite a strong herb, so you don't want it to overpower. So that's just one sprig, just very finely chopped. Now we're going to leave that at a low temperature for about, as I said, 20 minutes or so until they're nice and soft and translucent. Over here, in this pot, I've got some garlic. Now these garlic cloves have been peeled, put into some cold water, brought up to the boil 3 times and just simmered for about sort of 10 minutes. That's going to soften the garlic and make it very sweet. It takes all the harshness out of it, and that's just a nice sort of background garlicky flavour for the base of the tart. So while that's going on, we can make the mix for the tart. Very simple: 3 eggs, bit of milk, bit of double cream, equal quantities for this. So you need whole eggs to bind the tart. 3 of those. And then very simply just beat them up. We're going to flavour it with the rosemary, with the garlic, with the strong cheese. So you don't need a lot else other than just a very simple bit of salt and pepper. So mix the eggs, in with the cream, in with the milk. Bit of black pepper, not too much. It's quite powerful, quite spicy stuff. A little bit of salt, in there, but again, you've got a lot of cheese going in there, so you don't want to overdo the salt. You can always add a bit later on. Give that a mix. And that's the base. So when the tart has this nice distinctive sort of biscuity colour, that's when it's done, and now you're ready to layer up your filling. So I've got the red onions here, which have been sweated down long and slow. Put those in the base, just spread those all the way over. As I said, I mean, they're sweet, and they got a nice mellow taste along with the garlic. So it's not going to overpower anything yet. All the strength and the flavour of this tart is going to come from the cheese, which we'll go on to in just a second. Here's the garlic, which again has been softened down. Just going to slice this up a bit. You could eat it whole. These are really nice if they're dipped in caramel. If you make a little caramel and then roll it in bread, it makes delicious sort of alternative garlic bread as well. So it's nothing to be scared of. This, although it looks like a lot of garlic, it's not gonna blow your head off, as it were. So just nice rough chopped garlic going in, like so. Make sure that's spread around. Okay. Then finally, and as I said, there's not much to this tart, the Colliers Cheddar. Now this is what's going to give this tart its distinctive, powerful taste. I mean, it's if you were to make this tart with an inferior cheese, it's just not going to be the same. It's like sort of low-fat chocolate spread or something. There's just no need for it. So spread that around. And then finally, in with your egg mix. Like so. Being careful not to go over the edge. If you're in doubt, then top it up when it's in the oven. Like so, that's just pretty much spot on. And then that goes back into the oven for about 35 to 40 minutes, depending. You just need a slight wobble in the middle at about 140 to 150 degrees. So nice and low and slow. So after 35 to 40 minutes, until it's set, till it's nicely coloured on the top, that's what you want, that's what you're looking for. But it's quite important now at this stage not to cut it straight away, because it will be slightly perverse in the middle, slightly runny. If you try to cut it now, it'll all fall apart. So leave it room temperature for about, if you can, about an hour, just to firm up a little. And these tarts are best eaten if they're at room temperature. So after you've left it as long as possible to cool down, that's what you're looking for, a nice, slightly sort of dense texture where it's just firmed up. Now, as I said earlier, we didn't trim any of that pastry away because of the reason for shrinkage, just holding it all in shape, but now you can lose it. So with a serrated knife, just go gently around the tart, just peeling it all off. Try to peel it all sort of in a downwards kind of motion, like so, so you're not getting all the bits and pieces all over the tart and spoiling the appearance. There you go, keep going around like so, and then we'll attempt to turn it out. And this is another good reason why you shouldn't do it straight away, because you just won't be able to touch it, it'll be roasting hot. So lift it out gently, and then I'm going to serve this with some roasted tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, and a little bit of salad leaf. So just very carefully cut a really good sizable piece. And then with a tart that's that good and that strong taste, don't need a lot of dressing up, so just a few leaves, like so, a couple of the cherry tomatoes, and there you go, that's the Colliers Cheddar and red onion tart.